I need to tell you about something that's been keeping me up at night. Imagine waking up one day and discovering that everything you've fought for, everything you've sacrificed, every person you've hurt, it was all for nothing. The war ended almost 3 decades ago, but nobody told you. His name was Hiroo Onoda, and what I'm about to share with you isn't just another World War II story. It's about a man who became a ghost, a soldier who turned into a myth. And when they finally found him in 1974, what he said, it still gives me chills. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel, because the story you're about to hear, it's one of those pieces of history that refuses to stay buried. And honestly, after learning what really happened in that jungle, I think you'll understand why. Late December 1944. The war is already lost, though most Japanese soldiers don't know it yet. Hiroo Onoda stands in front of his commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, receiving orders that will define the next 3 decades of his life. Let me paint you the picture of who Onoda was before all this. He wasn't some fanatic who volunteered for a suicide mission. He was an intelligence officer, trained at the Nakano School, Japan's elite guerrilla warfare academy. They didn't teach you how to die gloriously there. They taught you how to survive, how to blend into the shadows, how to make the enemy paranoid. Taniguchi looked at this young officer and said something that would echo in Onoda's mind for 10,257 days. It may take 3 years, it may take 5, but whatever happens will come back for you. Until then, so long as you have one soldier, you are to continue to lead them. You are absolutely forbidden to die by your own hand. Think about that for a second. In a military culture where ritual suicide was considered honorable, where soldiers were expected to fight to the death, Onoda's commanding officer specifically ordered him to survive, to keep fighting no matter what. And here's what gets me. Taniguchi meant it as reassurance, a promise, but it became a prison sentence. Onoda was sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines with a clear mission: destroy the airstrip, sabotage the harbor, and make the island useless to the Americans. But when he arrived, higher-ranking officers on the island had other ideas. They blocked his plans, made him wait. By February 1945, when American forces landed on Lubang, Onoda hadn't accomplished a single objective. The invasion was swift, overwhelming, and within days, the organized Japanese resistance on the island collapsed like a house of cards. Most of the Japanese soldiers on Lubang either died in the initial assault or surrendered within weeks, but not Onoda. He gathered 3 other soldiers, Private Yuichi Akatsu, Corporal Shoichi Shimada, and Private First Class Kinshichi Kozuka, and they melted into the jungle-covered mountains. Now, I want you to understand what jungle warfare really means. This isn't camping. This isn't survival training. The Philippine jungle is a living thing that wants to kill you. Mosquitoes carrying malaria, snakes, scorpions, humidity so thick you can barely breathe, and every day the constant gnawing hunger. But Onoda had been trained for this. They built a base in the mountains, they rationed their ammunition like it was gold, and they waited for the Japanese forces to return. September 2nd, 1945. On the deck of the USS Missouri, Japan formally surrendered. The war was over. American sailors celebrated. Japanese civilians wept. And in a jungle on a tiny island in the Philippines, 4 men had no idea their world had fundamentally changed. Here's where the story gets heartbreaking. Within weeks of the surrender, leaflets started appearing in the jungle. The first one was simple, almost desperate. The war ended on August 15th. Come down from the mountain. I've thought about this moment so many times. These 4 men holding this piece of paper, reading those words. And you know what Onoda's training told him? It's a trap. It's Allied propaganda. They want us to give up. And honestly, can you blame them? Think about what they knew. They knew about Iwo Jima, where Japanese soldiers fought to the last man. They knew about Okinawa, where the battle lasted months. The idea that Japan, the empire of the rising sun, would just surrender without them even knowing about the atomic bombs, it seemed impossible. So they dismissed it, and they kept fighting. But here's what really twists the knife. It wasn't just one leaflet. Over the next few years, the attempts to reach them escalated. General Tomoyuki Yamashita himself, commander of the 14th Area Army, dropped leaflets from aircraft, official surrender orders, signed documents. Onoda's response? Sophisticated Allied forgery. In 1952, 7 years after the war ended, search planes dropped something different. Letters from their families, photographs, personal messages that only their loved ones could have written. And I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. Holding a letter from your mother, seeing your family's faces, and having to convince yourself it's all an elaborate trick. Having to choose between your orders and your heart. They chose their orders, because that's what soldiers do. But maintaining that belief required something terrible. It required them to see enemies everywhere. Every Filipino farmer became a potential Allied soldier in disguise. Every person in civilian clothes became a threat. And this is where I need to pause and address something difficult. Because Onoda and his men didn't just hide in the jungle. They raided villages, they stole food, and yes, they killed people. 30 people, to be exact, over the course of nearly 3 decades. Now, make sure you're still with me here. If you're finding this story as gripping as I am, take a second and hit that like button. It helps more people discover these untold chapters of history. Let me tell you what happened to Onoda's group, one by one, because each loss made the survivors more paranoid, more isolated, more convinced they were right. 1950, 5 years after the war ended, Private Akatsu couldn't take it anymore. The hunger, the fear, the isolation, it broke him. One night, he slipped away from camp and surrendered to Filipino forces. For the remaining 3, this wasn't relief that their comrades survived. It was betrayal, proof that they couldn't trust anyone, not even each other. Their circle of trust shrank to just 3 men in an entire world. 1950 war. 9 years after the war, they're spotted by a search party on a beach. But Corporal Shimada, instead of recognizing them as rescuers, opens fire. The search party fires back. Shimada dies on that beach, probably never understanding that the people trying to save him were the ones who killed him. Now it's just 2, Onoda and Kazuka. And here's what breaks my heart. They kept going. For 18 more years, these 2 men maintained their war. They sabotaged infrastructure that didn't matter. They gathered intelligence on an enemy that didn't exist. They prepared for a Japanese counteroffensive that would never come. Think about the psychology of this. Every year that passed, surrendering became harder, because admitting the war was over meant admitting that Shimada died for nothing, that all those people they'd killed were murdered, not casualties of war, that their entire adult lives had been wasted. So they doubled down. They had to. October 19th, 1972, 27 years after Japan's surrender. Kazuka and Onoda are burning rice stores, part of their ongoing guerrilla campaign. But the Philippine police have better weapons now, better training. In the firefight, Kazuka is shot and killed. And suddenly, Hiroo Onoda is alone. I want you to really sit with this for a moment. Imagine being the last person on Earth who believes something. The last soldier fighting a war everyone else forgot. You're wearing a uniform that's held together with jungle vines. Your rifle is nearly 3 decades old. And you're 50 years old, hiding in the jungle like a teenager. What do? Onoda kept fighting, because what else could he do? Surrendering now would mean Kazuka died for nothing. It would mean the last 27 years were a waste. It would mean he failed his mission. But then, something remarkable happened. Something that sounds like fiction, but is absolutely true. A young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki decided he wanted to find 3 things: a panda, the abominable snowman, and Hiroo Onoda. In that order. I'm not making this up. This college dropout with basically no survival training wandered into the Philippine jungle in February 1974 and actually found Onoda. The professional search parties had failed for decades, but this kid just walked up to him. And here's the conversation that followed. As far as I can piece it together from accounts, Suzuki: the war is over. Japan lost. Come home. Onoda: I will not surrender unless I receive orders from my commanding officer. Think about that. Even face to face with a Japanese citizen who's clearly from the modern world, Onoda won't break, can't break. His programming is too deep. But Suzuki was smart. He realized this wasn't about convincing Onoda the war was over. It was about giving him permission to stop fighting. So, Suzuki made a promise. He'd find Onoda's commanding officer and bring him to Lubang, March 1974. Major Yoshimi Taneguchi, now a civilian, now an old man, returns to the Philippines. He's kept his promise, but it's taken 29 years, 3 months, and 11 days. I've seen the photographs of what happened next, and they destroy me every time. Onoda emerges from the jungle in his tattered Imperial Army uniform. The fabric is rotting. It's been repaired hundreds of times with whatever he could find, but he's wearing it with the same pride he had in 1944. He stands at attention, salutes the Japanese flag, and Major Taniguchi gives him his final orders. You are relieved of duty, the war is over. Only then does Onoda surrender. He hands over his Arisaka Type 99 rifle, still functional after 3 decades in a jungle, his samurai sword, his hand grenades, his family dagger, 500 rounds of ammunition, and his orders. Those orders from 1944, kept dry and safe for 10,957 days. President Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines grants him a full pardon. Because what else can you do? How do you prosecute a man who genuinely believed he was still at war? Those 30 people he killed, in his mind, they were enemy combatants. He was following orders. But here's the thing that haunts me most about this story. When Onoda returned to Japan, he was treated like a hero. Crowds gathered. His autobiography became a bestseller. People celebrated his loyalty, his dedication, his unbreakable will. But Onoda himself, he was devastated. He looked at modern Japan and didn't recognize it. The values he'd fought for were gone. The country he'd preserved in his mind, like a perfect photograph, had evolved into something completely different. Everything he'd sacrificed for had vanished while he was hiding in that jungle. In 1975, just 1 year after surrendering, Onoda left Japan for Brazil. He raised cattle, opened schools, built a new life. But in his interviews later in life, you can hear the conflict still eating at him. He said, "Every Japanese soldier was prepared for death. But as an intelligence officer, I was ordered to conduct guerrilla warfare and not to die. I became an officer and I received an order. If I could not carry it out, I would feel shame. I am very competitive. Very competitive." That's how he explained 29 years of war, 30 deaths, 3 lost comrades, an entire life spent in a jungle fighting ghosts. But here's my question for you, and I really want you to think about this. Was Hiroo Onoda the most loyal soldier who ever lived? Or was he the most tragic victim of a war that forgot about him? Because I think the answer is both. And I think that's what makes this story so devastating. Onoda died in 2014 at age 91. He lived longer after the war than most of the people who fought in it. But in some ways, I don't think he ever really left that jungle. Part of him stayed there forever, waiting for orders that would never come. If this story affected you the way it affected me, do me a favor, share it. Leave a comment telling me what you think. And subscribe, because history is full of stories like this. Stories about real people caught in impossible situations. Stories that deserve to be told. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the war doesn't end just because someone signs a piece of paper. Sometimes it lives on in the hearts and minds of those who fought it. Until next time.